Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Jarrett Smith, and this is the Mostly Audibles podcast, co-hosted by Ryan Gum. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing well. Listeners of this channel probably know me as Cinema. I know I might come across as a nerd after 6, 7 weeks of talking about actors and directors and storylines and whatnot, but actually, I'm a nerd that likes sports, as Jarrett can attest to.
How we met, brother.
Yeah. Actually, should we give the audience a little bit of background on us before
That
we get
sounds
going?
magnificent.
Yeah.
All right. You want to start off with the story of how we met, or should I?
I don't care.
I'll go first.
Okay. All right.
So this is we went to the same college. We were doing the same job. We had no idea of it at this time. We come in together as freshmen, end up living in the same building, and we have this thing at our school. It's a welcome tour. So we're going around and I just see this little dorky guy standing there, and he's talking to anybody that will listen about a Michael Jordan versus LeBron James debate. And me being the LeBron fan that I was, I had to jump in, and we found out we were living in the same dorm, doing the same job, which was managing for the basketball team, and became pretty much best friends ever since then. Moved in together after our second semester, and yeah, we've known each other for what, almost 4 years now.
Yeah.
Three,
Going on
three,
3.
long time,
Crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
long time.
It's insane because like exactly what you just said, like we didn't know each other, we just happened to be in the same major, and then we meet each other at this random event, and we just happen to learn that we live 2 doors down from each other in the same dorm.
Mm-hmm.
Then we realize that we live or do the exact same job. As he said, we both manage the basketball team for our university. And so yeah, and as he said, ever since then we've yelled at each other about sports, stayed up till 3 a.m. discussing just anything. And we've lived together for a while. I mean, we don't anymore, but we used to. But yeah, and we've had discussions about this very concept, the podcast, whatever it may be, and even the name, mostly audibles. We've had this in our heads for a year.
It's the Mostly Audibles podcast. I'm pretty sure you came up with that idea in 2020.
It's been so long.
It has been a long time coming.
Yeah, so we're happy to be here. Yeah,
Really.
Jarrett, and with that, take it away. Let's do our thing.
All right. I'm glad you kicked it back to me, because I would like to start off with, this is mainly going to be an NFL podcast, but we're going to talk about college occasionally. And with that, I would like to start off with the Jimbo Fisher, Deion Sanders, Nick Saban story that has come out within the past, what, couple days, 2, 3.
Yeah,
I don't know your opinion on this. I know what mine is. And I know, just personally speaking, I don't see an issue with it. If you're going to get paid to play, that money that they're going to pay you is going to change your life. Kids should be able to go wherever they want, play for whoever they want, and there shouldn't be a holster on it. There
yeah.
just shouldn't be.
No, and I think that's completely fair. I do think that there needs to be some restriction, just because I don't think I'm thinking more from a college's perspective, because you shouldn't pick where you want to go play college ball based on a bidding war. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that kind of defeats the purpose of like college sports, you know? And but I do also agree that that is life-changing money. But in terms of Nick Saban and what he said, I feel like the man was way out of pocket. Um
Absolutely.
well, simply because you know he's doing the same thing. Like
They have for years.
yeah,
We all know that every college pays their athletes to come there. It's not a secret. Like, everybody knows it.
well, especially with our experience.
Yes, when we have had some experiences.
Yeah. No, it's something that happens, and it's shocking that it's like I guess that's our perspective that we have, but like to me it's shocking that this is like taking as much a grip in a controversial way as it is, just because it's so prevalent, you know? Like I feel like there's always the joke, "Oh, colleges pay their students," but when you learn that the or sports, I guess, college sports pay their athletes, but when you learn just to the extent of it, people are like, "Whoa, whoa," and it's like, "Were you not just joking about that? Like, did you not take yourself seriously?"
Yeah. It's just, why would you even say that if you didn't honestly think that it was true?
Yeah,
First off, and second off, now that you know it is, why are you acting shocked?
yeah, yeah.
But
So yeah, sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna talk about how I think that this is probably one of the better things that it's gonna be one thing that saves college sports, in my opinion, because it's gonna make so many more teams actually be able to compete with these high majors just because, you know, it doesn't matter about money for some of the guys. And with all the transfer and stuff, you're gonna get these mid majors and these low D1s, and you're getting JUCOs and Division twos. They're all going to be loaded with talent now just because there's so many kids transferring, so many kids are leaving their school, and it's just I think it's a great thing for college sports, truthfully.
Yeah, and that's fair. I'll play devil's advocate here. And I bring up one example because another really big name that was that recently broke news. It was the wide receiver from Pitt. I can't think of his name. It was like Addison. What was his name?
Oh, you had to ask. I know who you're talking about, but I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Yeah. So I mean we sound like real big fans, don't we? But
Yeah.
but he was the top receiver in all of the nation last year. He led
Yeah.
the ACC. Was Kenny Pickett's number one option. And there was no rumblings of him leaving at all until the tampering allegations from USC. Many topics of conversation came up from the Pittsburgh camp yelling at Lincoln Riley to stop calling their guy. Surely enough, where does this receiver end up? And I'm going to look it up. But he ends up at USC.
Yeah.
So to play devil's advocate here, how like and what you just said, I'm taking everything you said about all the money going around and all that. Jordan Addison is his name.
Yes, it is.
Jordan Addison. How do you keep teams with money with because here's another thing too, I guess I should preface. The NCAA recently passed a rule stating that, and this is something I thought was going to be an issue from the get, boosters at universities cannot fund NIL deals, which is what was happening. You had
Mhm.
boosters with all this money from Texas, USC, Oklahoma, Alabama, Oklahoma State, whatever, who were boosting these NIL deals from these businesses, masking them as straight up like NIL deals, and then paying these players in a more direct way. So how do you keep teams like the big markets of LA, Tuscaloosa, I'll even say down at Florida State if they ever get it back up, right?
Mhm.
Tallahassee. How do you keep these major universities with major donors from outbidding any mid-major or even smaller like Power 5 like a Pittsburgh?
I feel like eventually we're going to end up in like a kind of an NBA stage where there's like a tampering phase, and they go about it that way more to where, players sign their thing and then kind of just open it back up if they choose to go from there. But I mean, they're already starting to realize what the mistakes with it were, and I think they're going to fix that fairly quickly with especially getting the boosters out of it such a direct way. So it'll be the way the NCAA handles this determines how the NCAA will do for the next 30 years.
Right. No, I
And
completely
that's
agree.
that's the truth, and I think they know it too, which is why they're taking such a swift action on it. Because as well as I do how the NCAA handles stuff, they take their sweet time.
Oh, they like
They
to, yeah.
they always have. Most of the time, they always will, except when it comes to this.
Yeah. And honestly though, I think that's going to change because the NCAA president, and I'm going to look up his name because once again, I don't remember it. Mark Emmert. He's leaving. He next year, he had a whole year and a half of preparation because I think next summer is whenever his term ends and they're going to bring in a new dude. But Emmert, who took over in 2010, shortly after that's when all these issues started popping up, he's stepping down. So I think everything you're saying that you're completely correct, but I think that's going to change, and we're going to start seeing a lot different NCAA moving forward.
And
Um,
I genuinely hope so because I love college sports as much as the next person. There's no atmosphere like college sports.
right.
I think you can agree with it from the atmospheres that we've seen,
Yeah.
and it 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 would be very sad for them to be screwed over because of the NCAA being stupid.
Right. But to bring us back to what got us on this topic, Jimbo Fisher, I feel like, see, here's the thing. I'm not gonna come on here and act like I love Nick Saban because like I'm not like I kind of don't have a dog in this fight, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't hate him. I respect him as like I think he's the best coach of all time. Just from his accomplishment standpoint and what he's been able to turn Alabama into as a not even a program, as a franchise. Um, but I don't really love him, nor do I hate him. But even before the Deion Sanders tweet that came out right after the Nick Saban press, right? It felt like hypocrisy at its finest. It really like to me it rubbed. I don't want to say it rubbed me the wrong way because like I said, like I don't have a dog in this fight, but it was just kind of like, man, like how can you call out? And I think Jimbo Fisher really hit on it in his response presser. How can you go at these kids, even if it was a money thing, right?
Hmm.
Like how can you go after these children chasing their dreams in the way that you do, especially when you probably promise those same kids the same things that they took at other schools.
Look, honestly, it's such a difficult spot. He put his foot in his mouth with that one.
Yeah.
And honestly, if he hadn't brought up Deion Sanders and Travis Hunter, the number one cornerback in the nation, I don't think that a lot of people disagree with him. It's just when he brought those two up,
Right.
knowing what they make and knowing, it's Jackson State. It's
Right.
an HBCU.
With
They're not,
FCS.
yeah, they're not the best team in the nation by any means,
They might be the
and
best
he's not.
FCS team.
Not, yeah, but still, they're not. They're not an Alabama type program. They don't have that kind of money. They don't have that kind of support.
Yeah.
And when he brought them up, if he had left it at Jimbo Fisher or someone else, a Lincoln Riley at USC, because you mentioned them earlier, if he had brought them up, that would have been the one that made his topic actually decent. He
Right.
could have he could have survived off of that one. But when he brought up Deion and when he brought up Travis, he really stuck his foot in his mouth.
Right. And it was funny because in one of the tweets, Travis Hunter said, "If I saw $1 million, why is my family living in?" I think he said his mom living in like a 3 bedroom with 5 kids, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And then Dion quote tweeted that and said, "I don't even make $1 million a year." And so I just looked up his salary at Jackson State, which I guarantee has been a very popularly Googled question.
Yeah.
He signed a 4-year, 1.2 million contract. So this man over 4 years will get 1.2 million, but he doesn't make 1 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me exactly what you're saying. Like this just adds credence. Like you're telling me this man at Jackson State is throwing what he would make in 4 years at one recruit.
They're not doing that. And
No.
that's just that was where he stuck his foot in his mouth, and I don't know. I don't know if he can overcome that one. But are you ready to get into the first topic of the show?
I think yeah, our first
I,
actual big segment.
all right. I don't know if you're ready for this one. I think we're gonna start out west. We're gonna go with the Chiefs.
Okay. All right.
I would. I think we're gonna. This is gonna be us doing off-season grades for each division, each team. We're gonna start doing divisions. This episode is going to be about the AFC West and the NFC West. And I'm going to kick it to you to tell me what you think your off-season grade is for the Chiefs.
I mean, okay. Here's the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs didn't get better. Okay, I feel like they lost their best weapon offensively, and by not bringing back Tyrann Mathieu, I feel like you hurt the one thing that saved whatever hindrance you had offensively, right? Not that they had many, but whenever they weren't able to put up 40 points a game, their defense was strong enough that they could get stops, right?
Mm-hmm.
You lose Tyron, you try to replace Cheetah with a Juju Smith-Schuster, which I just don't think is enough. You get Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who is just, I mean, I think he's an average receiver at best. I mean, this man has had Aaron Rodgers and now Patrick Mahomes, and we still can't say for certain that he will be a star, which I think says to his talent level. Obviously, he's a very talented receiver to still be a receiver in the NFL, but not one that will change the way the game is perceived. Um, Obviously, they will have a oh crap, running back got hurt.
Clyde.
Yeah, there you go. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Thank you. They still have Clyde. They will still have they'll still have. Why can't I think of anything? Travis, not Travis. Kelsey. Yes, Travis Kelsey.
Yes, Travis Kelsey.
It's been a long day, man. I worked morning. I apologize to those
I
listening.
understand. I understand.
Travis Kelsey, they still have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They bring in those two receivers, so like it's not like they're completely out. I think, but in such a difficult West, I would give them a C, as in like they're just passing, but they don't get better.
Okay. I think personally, I'm going to take it the opposite way because I think the Chiefs, as an actual whole, got a lot better. They relied so heavily on the star power last year. And, it's taken them far. They won a Super Bowl with it. I respect the hell out of it. But this year, they brought in Justin Reed to replace Tyrann Mathieu, which
Right.
don't get me wrong, he is not as good as Tyrann Mathieu is. But for the next, I think he signed 3 or 4 years, he's probably going to be better because he's just now entering his prime and Tyrann Mathieu is leaving his.
Right.
Juju and Scantling are not going to fill Tyreek Hill's shoes. But I think there's a piece that you're forgetting here. They also drafted Sky Moore from Western Michigan, who I was incredibly high on. Wanted my Steelers to draft him. I'm super happy that we got who we got, but I did want the Steelers to draft him at a point. I loved the offseason moves that they made. I loved them getting Trent McDuffie. Thought he was a really good corner out of Washington. Really liked George Karlaftis out of Purdue. Wasn't the best edge you'll ever see. Obvious. I mean, he was a late first round pick for a reason, especially in this kind of weaker draft class where you could really go anywhere. But I mean, they needed people, and that's what they did. They got better as a unit in this, and that was exactly what I was looking at them for. That they brought in a lot of pieces, and really the only people that they lost of importance were Tyreek Hill and Tyrann Mathieu. And I think personally, I would give them an A- for their offseason grade.
No, I think everything you said's fair. I'm not trying to say they didn't bring back in any talent. I just don't think, even if they have depth, I don't think that overdoes star. I will give you I will say what you said about Justin Reed. Like, I'll give you that one. Sure, he replaces Tyrann Mathieu in enough of a facility that keeps that defense relevant. But I just losing Cheetah, man. Like, I think that just makes them that much easier to defend. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I get that, but like really how it depends on how much you value Cheetah in that offense, because I think that offense doesn't miss a beat without him, truthfully.
well, another person they lost to is Mecole Hardman, who got arrested instantly after signing with the Bears. He went down to Florida.
Well,
Um,
no offense to me, Cole. He's a very talented person, but for him to not be putting up numbers in that system where he wasn't really being covered like Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelsey, I think it
Right.
shows just again, kind of like how you said with Marquez Valdez-Scantling, it shows really his talent level that he is not that guy.
No, I mean, I feel
I'm
you. I feel you.
I'm very okay with how they did.
Yeah, I mean, well, Travis Kelsey turns 33 in the fall. They lose their best receiver. They lose a deep threat that probably was hurting in terms of Mecole. Like, everything you said was right, but he's probably
Mhm.
hurting because you have one of the best tight ends having the best performances ever, and then you
Mhm.
have one of the best and quickest deep threats in Tyreek Hill. Um, so yeah, I think we both have points here. I will say a undrafted free agent signing I love. Everyone's gonna know who I'm gonna say. Justin Ross. That might be, if he can stay healthy, that might be the reason I think that the Chiefs stay on top, because he will be someone that will absolutely, if he can stay healthy, he's got enough talent to really blow open that wide receiver core. Even with like Juju, he'll blow past Juju, he'll blow past Marquez Scantling. I love Justin.
I mean, he was supposed to be the first receiver taken off the board before his injuries finally kind of took him out of his college season. So it's very warranted where you're coming from, because if he is healthy, he would have been a first round pick. And getting a first round pick undrafted is so rare
Oh yeah.
And if he is the Justin Ross that we saw 2 years ago at Clemson before his injury, that Chiefs offense is more dynamic than we've probably ever seen it.
Oh, I completely agree.
Especially with that offensive line being as good as it is and them getting better.
Oh yeah. No,
That
listen, a Juju and a Scantling as a second and third option that's a good offense. Like third or fourth with Travis Kelsey.
mm-hmm.
So it's like that. That's it. Yeah. Um. Yeah. No, I think, like I said, I think we both have good perspectives on this, even though
Yeah.
we did mildly disagree. What's our
I
next
feel
team, my
like
friend?
I feel like you might have talked yourself into a little bit of a higher grade than a C, if I'm being honest.
All I
But
said, I'll listen. I said ifs, a lot of ifs.
yeah, that's fair. I'll give that one to you. But still. And the next team that we're going to is going to be the Denver Broncos.
Oh boy,
And
here we
I
go.
would I would really like to start this one
Go ahead.
because I know this is going to be very controversial. I would give them a C plus for their offseason.
Wow.
And I understand why it is as controversial as it is. Because they did bring in Russell Wilson. They'd signed some very good free agents that are going to help them. They did. But what I'm really scared of, and I know this might be a personal thing. They traded the second best option away on that offense, and Noah Fant. They traded away their nose tackle and Shelby Harris, and I don't think they signed DJ Jones from the Niners, who replaces him, not to the level that Shelby Harris was. They signed Randy Gregory, but I'm pretty sure he's suspended, right?
Um, Probably. Here, let me look.
Yeah,
Keep making your point, but
I'm not entirely positive on that one. But they didn't really do anything in the draft to make you be like, oh my god, this is one of the best drafts we've ever seen. I mean, they drafted uh an edge out of Oklahoma, which we all know how the Big 12's defenses are. They're not very good. And their second pick was a tight end out of UCLA. And no offense to the tight ends in this draft class, they just weren't good.
Mm-hmm.
Like this was not a very good draft class for tight ends. And outside of like the top five edges, it wasn't a very good draft class for them either.
Right.
So while you did bring in Russell Wilson and you did open a window, I don't think that the window is that much better than what it was before they did that. I personally would have preferred them going out and signing a quarterback that was more than mediocre before I would prefer them giving up as much as they did for Russell Wilson. And I think my biggest issue is what they gave up. I would have been fine with picks if they had just traded picks. I think this is B plus A minus, no doubt about it. But they gave up Noah Fant, who I'm incredibly high on, think he's going to be one of the best tight ends in the league, and Shelby Harris, who is already one of the best nose tackles in the league. So I'm very comfortable saying that this is a C plus.
No, that's fair. I'm gonna give them a B. I actually I do like what they did. I feel like you needed to move on from Drew Lock, and I know you gave up. I know you're a lot higher on Noah Fant than I am. Not that I'm not high on Noah Fant. I just, as long as Drew Lock's throwing to him, I think what we see is probably as best as it's gonna get. And it's looking like Geno Smith is gonna be throwing to Noah Fant this next year in Seattle. So I don't know if that's gonna be much better. Um, Listen, you finally get a quarterback. You plug up the holes that you lost when you traded to, at least maybe not as good as they were, but enough to where you still have a good line. That defense was already good. You add Randy Gregory. You re-signed Melvin Gordon. This was already a squad with Drew Lock that was competing for a playoff spot. Now you add an all-pro, a multi-time all-pro Super Bowl winning quarterback. You keep a decent line, keep a decent defense, and you re-sign what was successful the year prior. I have no reason to believe why they shouldn't be a playoff contender again this year. The only reason I don't say they're locked for the playoffs is just because every one of these AFC West teams are so stacked that I can't say anything about any of them except for maybe one, right? And we'll get to them eventually. Um, so yeah, I know like a B is obviously like I'm a lot higher obviously than I am what the Chiefs did. Um, but yeah, I'll give him a B. If you can't tell, Jarrett's our football. Like he is the analyst. He's the professional. I'm just the I'm the more than average fan who tries to keep track as much as I can. I enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, that just from what I've seen, take it as you will, and yeah, that's what I think of Denver, a B.
Well, I think a thing that nobody's really talking about either is Russell Wilson wasn't really that great last year. He
Right.
can be. He can be. I'm not doubting his greatness at all because he at a time was a top 5, top 3 quarterback, and I would go to bat for him in that. But last year, Russell Wilson was just not that great. You could watch you if you watched any Seattle games, you could tell he wasn't as mobile as he used to be. He wasn't throwing the ball as hard as he used to be. And I genuinely question how uh what they moved for a 33-year-old quarterback who relied on his athleticism for so long.
Yeah. No,
No,
I
which
feel you.
I I get it. He can definitely change the way he plays, but he is a 6 foot, and that's giving him a little bit tall quarterback who relied on his athleticism for years. And when you take athleticism away from him, can he become a Drew Brees, what Drew Brees was later in his career? If he can do that, then this offseason grade goes from C plus to a B for me. But I have to take what Russell Wilson did last year as kind of what, not necessarily what you'll get going forward, but kind of like a reminder that he might not be that guy like he was.
We're
So
also
I'm
sorry, go
very
ahead.
skeptical. I'm just very skeptical on it.
Yeah.
That is what I'll say about that.
And no, and that's fair. I to counteract that once again, just playing devil's advocate. I feel like you could also point to that Seahawks team being a shell of itself as something that can add to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, other than that, like I do think that you have a really solid point. And honestly, I think at the end of the day, it'll come down to head coach Nathaniel Hackett and offensive coordinator Justin Outen to see exactly how that goes out on the offensive end anyway. Because I mean, in
Mm-hmm.
such a stacked division, that's what it's going to come down to. It's going to come, who can outcoach who. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's I think that's the end of my take on the Broncos. Is can Hackett, Coach Hackett, do what he needs to do?
Yeah, and it I think that's a very good point. That is such a stacked division. I think they finished last. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. They're gonna be a good football team, a very hard team to beat, but just are they gonna be the top of the division? No, I don't think so. I think at best they're the third team in that division.
Right.
I just that's what my personal feeling is. And it's just really unfortunate that they had to take this leap while every other team in that division took the leap, because it probably in any other offseason, this is a very high offseason grade. It's just
Yeah.
what the other teams did. I don't know if it makes them good enough to take them out.
Yeah. Oh, I understand. I completely agree.
All right. And the next team that we will be doing is the Los Angeles Chargers.
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
Would you like to start on this one, or should I?
Go ahead.
All right. So my personal opinion, A, not an A minus, not an A plus. A. Loved, I absolutely loved the pick of Zion Johnson. He was my outside of offensive tackles, he was the best lineman in the draft class.
Mm-hmm.
Loved bringing in Khalil Mack because you already have Joey Bosa. You have your pass rusher. You bring in Khalil Mack. He's not what he used to be, but damn, can that man still stop a run like nobody's business?
Mm-hmm.
He is still probably going to produce you 10 sacks a year if he stays healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get it's just like, what are you going to do when you have to be like, all right, where are we going to go? You put Bosa on one side, you've got Khalil on the other, and I probably the most one of the most underrated signings of the offseason that's not being talked about enough, probably because all of the insaneness that has happened, is them signing JC Jackson, who is a legit cornerback one. Derwin James is going to be healthy. They did draft JT Woods out of Baylor, who is extremely fast.
Mm-hmm.
They already have the offense. As long and this is this will determine how this Chargers season goes. As long as their coaching staff does not screw them over, because they have all of the talent in the world,
Mm-hmm.
they should win that division.
Oh yeah, I mean yeah, I'm on the same boat. I have the Chargers, just because of how much they've added to an already good team that should have made the playoffs if Justin Herbert didn't wet the bed. I'm just that's a jab. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding.
Uh,
But no, if they, how do I word this? Because I'm not really for certain what went down. Like I don't know who to place the blame on the Chargers for missing the playoffs. They have more than enough talent to not only make a playoff like run to the playoffs. They have enough to potentially make a Super Bowl run if they can come together. Justin Herbert is probably one of the premier examples of youth arriving in the league, other than Joe Burrow.
Top five quarterback.
Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, I look at this roster that was last year. That should have been a playoff team. Should have won multiple games in the playoffs. Just didn't make it for whatever reason. Call it youth, call it coaching, whatever. You add, and here's the thing. You talked about Khalil Mack. This man returns to the AFC West, and I truly think he comes back with a vengeance.
Mhm.
I mean, he has no reason not in this style, in this system, with this amount of star power, not to have a stereotypical type of Khalil Mack year. And you named it Joey Bosa. J.C. Jackson was obviously a great signing, but I do want to highlight the offense. They still have Mike Williams. They still have Austin Eckler. They still have Keenan Allen. Just, as we just talked about, Justin Herbert is still going to be Justin Herbert. So yeah, they have a great offensive line. So yeah, if they don't piece it together this year, I don't know what needs to blow up, but something will need to be changed.
I think a lot of the Chargers' issues in recent years, and they've had really good football teams in the past, has come down to health. Joey Bosa getting hurt, Derwin James getting hurt, Keenan Allen getting hurt, Mike Williams getting hurt, Eckler getting hurt. They're running out here without much consistency on their team because all their guys are getting hurt.
Right.
If it comes down to health, I do wonder if they can stay healthy, especially because Khalil Mack has had his fair share of injuries too. You can't knock that. I mean,
no.
If they're healthy and if they're coached correctly, they're a Super Bowl contender, and it's not even necessarily. I don't know if anybody could debate you on that.
No, and like everything that you said, like injuries. That's a great point. Yeah, I'm gonna finally give my grade. I'll do exactly what you did. I'll give them an A, just because I feel like obviously, like, other than J.C. Jackson, the other big signing in Khalil Mack, he is getting older. So who knows how much longer he can go at this level. And if he does start to decline, there still is enough talent on this roster for the next 2 to 3 years for them to be a legit defense.
Mm-hmm.
But how much longer does a guy whose major primary skill set is focused on his athleticism, how much longer can he stay at this level?
Yeah.
Not to say he doesn't have great footwork, and he is obviously tactically one of the best in the game, but what helps him is that he's so fast and so powerful, and those things, they wear off when you get up there in age. And so I think that would be something in the years following. If they have a really successful year, but they just can't get over the last hump, and they just miss the Super Bowl, or they just miss the AFC Championship, the Khalil Mack progression as he gets older is definitely something to pay attention to, because none of the rest of those guys are going anywhere. J.C. Jackson, we keep going back to him. He signed a 5-year deal to stay in L.A. Joey Bosa's on a long-term deal. Khalil Mack, how many years does he have left? Like 2?
Probably. I mean, I think it's 2 on his current deal.
Yeah.
But you got to think after that, they probably cut their bait and try and get another edge. Maybe even draft one. I mean, it all depends, truthfully, on what their draft is looking like. How high are they picking?
Yeah.
And it's so hard to tell right now who these guys are going to be, because you could say somebody's going to be the number 1 pick now. Just, I mean, kind of like how we said that last year it was going to be Kayvon Thibodeau, which granted he still went top 10. It's not like he's a terrible player or anything. Or Justin Ross, how he was wide receiver 1, Derek Stingley, cornerback 1. The draft fluctuates so much. You could pick somebody right now and they just completely ruin it for themselves. Spencer Rattler is a great example of that because he was supposed to be a top 5 pick, top 5 quarterback, and he ended up getting benched and transferring
To South Carolina of all places.
South Carolina in the SEC, where the defenses he's going to play are going to be better.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another story.
Oh
But
yeah.
I mean, I think their window right now is 2 years. They've got 2 really good years left, and then they'll have to retool.
Yeah.
Because they're obviously going to bring Herbert back. They're going to sign him to probably the largest quarterback deal that'll ever happen at the time.
Yeah, he's gonna break some records.
Yeah, that's just how it works. They're going to do that as soon as they can. Derwin James is going to get paid because he, when healthy, is a top 3 safety in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Bosa, or Joey Bosa, sorry, is already paid. Keenan Allen's probably got 2 years left because, again, he is injured quite often. Mike Williams is just now entering his prime. So they open their Super Bowl window for about 2 years, in my opinion. They've got this year or this upcoming year, and they've got next year. How they do it will matter a great deal. I think it's about time to move on.
Quick sidebar here. So you talked about, this is going back a little bit. Kayvon Thibodeau or Thibodeau, whatever. I see the name and I think Tom Thibodeau or Thibodeau, whatever, and so I want to pronounce it. I go back and forth. I'm sorry. I'm a basketball head. What do you want from me?
Bulls fan.
Anyway, yeah, hey. Anyway, so I really thought Kayvon Thibodeau, whatever, was the best player in this draft regardless. I know he ended up falling a little bit, but I as I've said on previous sports shows, follow 715.
Let's plug.
Yeah, little plug. I feel like he suffered more on a team that was disappointing overall rather than him lacking in skill. You know what I mean? Like he still performed and that team overall just did worse, if that makes sense, than what they were expecting. So I still feel like he was the best player in the draft, and I really feel like the Giants had the best draft class overall because you get Evan Neal and you get Kayvon Thibodeau and you get all these different young players that around a guy that you are still hoping turns into something in Daniel Jones. Are you kidding? Wendell Robinson's going there? Like that is the draft class of the year in my opinion. And on another note about Vaughn here, I'm as I looked him up, I realized I'm older than him. And I feel so old.
Yeah, that's coming for me soon. I know.
I feel so old. I'm not gonna say how much older because it's not a lot. Like it's like down to days. But the fact that I am days older than a top NFL prospect, like we're the same exact age, that hurts. Like that like hit me in a place I don't think I want to get hit again. But it's gonna happen every single year.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. NBA draft is gonna be worse too because all of those kids are 19 and 20.
Stop. See,
I know.
I retire.
Yeah.
It's been nice doing the show with you.
Yeah.
Thank you everybody for listening. Yeah, all right. It's time to move on before I start crying.
Okay. Let's get to the Raiders. And this is one I'm fairly excited for because I like what the Raiders did.
As do I. Did I give the Chargers a grade? Yeah, I did. I gave them an A.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you did.
Now we can finally move on.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm in. Listen, I don't understand, and I know you're probably going to disagree with me. Wait, maybe you will. I don't remember where you stand on Derek Carr. This man is so dogged on for nothing. I feel like he has been the one stable rock, the one consistent piece on a team that has sucked for so long. And people are like, this guy sucks. And I'm like, why? You just take a look at some of his numbers. I really feel like, I'm not saying he's a top 5, top 8 quarterback, but this guy is a definite star, in my opinion. Genuinely.
I tend to agree. I think the league is so talented with quarterbacks nowadays. I don't know if you could put him top 10, but if you're not putting him top 10, he's top 12.
That's what I'm saying. Like he's like
And that's not a dig at him. He is an incredible quarterback. I think he has been incredible for years. Another move I wanted the Steelers to make this year, but we can't have everything we want.
Kenny Pickett.
But no, I mean, you gotta love what the Raiders did bringing in Devontae Adams.
That's
what
I'm saying.
They finally got that man a true number one receiver.
Well, yeah, but not just that though. Like obviously, yes. Like as I was describing, you bring in a guy or you already have a guy, I should say, that he is so consistent and he is so good with the weapons he has now, like Darren Waller, and then you add a Devontae Adams, and this guy just gets that much better. And I feel like one of the low key signings that no one's going to talk about, Amir Abdullah, that's a great signing.
Agreed.
That's a great signing. That adds some consistency into a backfield that, like, with Josh Jacobs, yes, he's obviously going to be your running back number one, but, like, he's had inconsistency issues. He's not been what I think a lot of people expected him to be.
He's also been hurt a lot.
That as well. And so it's like you bring back Josh Jacobs. You hope he's healthy. You bring in some veteran leadership in Amir Abdullah, really solidify that running back core around guys that have been there, done that on the defensive side. You extend Max Crosby. Like, you have all these pieces in place. Like, it's going to be so hard. Like I know I just said that the Chargers, but after looking at these, like, at these offseason signings, I'm having a hard time picking between Vegas and LA. Just because, like, I truly believe, I agreed with you with Denver at 4, but after looking at all 4 of these teams, I think it goes, like, this is, the first 2 aren't in order. This can be interchanged. I think it goes Vegas and LA, 1 and 2, interchangeable. The Chiefs at 3, then the Broncos. That's really how I think this is going to pan out. Not because, like I said, I gave the Chiefs a C because I feel like they stayed put. But here's the thing. Unless Justin Ross blows up for the Chiefs, everyone around them got so much better that it doesn't matter the coach you have. It doesn't matter the quarterback you have, because those other teams are just better.
Yeah, and they're not getting free wins anymore. I mean, granted, they didn't last year, but they should have had 2 guaranteed wins against the Broncos. Should have had 2 against the Raiders, and depending on what Chargers team you get, you were at least splitting.
Yeah, you're gonna get 1, which that's 5 wins in the AFC West alone. That's just how the Chiefs used to be. Now they're lucky to get 2.
I genuinely think I feel like it's gonna be like every team goes 1-1 against each other.
Oh, yeah,
like it's gonna be so close.
AFC West records are going to be awful, but not because of them being bad teams. They're just gonna beat each other up so bad.
Yeah, they really are. What are you thinking your grade's gonna be for them?
For the Raiders? Oh, A+.
Yeah.
A+.
A+.
Oh, like, they're gonna be my 1 A+. I gave the Chargers an A. I gave the Raiders a B and the Chiefs a C, and I really think that's how it fans out. I think that literally goes almost exactly how I think the season will go for them, for the AFC West, I should say. Interchange, like I just said, Chargers, Raiders, Chiefs, then Broncos. So yeah, that's how I think it'll be, man.
I respect it. I kind of disagree with it a little bit, because I think that they didn't address one important thing, and that is the offensive line. This is the National Football League, where offensive lines are going to win you games.
Listen. Okay, you've already announced your fandom. Okay, I'm going to say
no.
Yes, you have.
This is not at all me announcing my fandom.
No. That's not what I'm saying. Earlier, you said you were a Pittsburgh fan. You said my Steelers.
Okay, yes.
So I'm going to rebuttal what you just said. Oh, by the way, we talked about Josh Jacobs. I just read they declined his 5th-year option. So
they did.
Take that with as we will, but we'll address that in a second. I am a Bengals fan, and here's the thing: it's wonder we're friends.
Yeah.
But anyway, where did Cincinnati go?
I get it. They went to the Super Bowl.
What did they
I get
address?
it. I've heard it enough.
It wasn't the line. It wasn't the offensive line that they addressed. They did exactly what the Raiders did, and they went how far? So, like, I get what you're saying. The Bengals proved with the right amount of talent, and I would argue that this Raiders team has more established talent than any of what the Cincinnati had this past season. So, like, yes, I know what you're saying, and I hear you, and I respect it. I disagree.
All right, but, like, hear me out on this. If Joe Burrow had 2 more seconds on that, not even 2 more, 1 more second, Jamar Chase was wide open running down the side of the field. If they had a better offensive line, I'm just saying they're Super Bowl champions instead of they're going home as Super Bowl losers.
You're right. I mean, but think about it. With a bad line, a young, talented franchise quarterback with a great receiver core and a really good defense was seconds away from winning a Super Bowl. What are you going to do when you already have an established all-pro quarterback with possibly the best receiver in the league and a great defense? You know what I mean?
I agree with you. It's just I don't. That's my one skepticism of the offseason that they had. It's not like I'm saying it's bad. It's just me questioning how much faith they're putting in this offensive line because, again, I think personally, offensive lines are going to win you championships.
Listen, I don't care when it is. I need to look at the schedule. When this Raiders Chargers, like the last one in particular, their last meeting, I don't know where it's at. I don't know when it is, but that game will decide the AFC West, and I am so excited for it.
Joey Bosa's going for 4 sacks on that terrible offensive line. I can just go ahead and tell you.
Okay.
But no, my offseason grade is going to be a B-.
All right, that's fine. I understand.
I did think it was better than the Broncos. Loved that. But I'm just, again, that one little skepticism in the back of my head wondering about that offensive line.
That's fair. I respect it. I'm not going to judge you too hard for it because you're right. Like I was giving you more of a hard time. It was more of a bit, but there are some seriousness to it. Like, you know, like I don't know. Anything's possible. Like I said, I won't go over my rehash of what I think will happen in the AFC West, but yeah, I think just this year football is going to be so nice.
That division is going to be probably the most fun division in football to watch.
Bro, you could
outside of like the AFC North just because they fight every time.
Bro, oh yeah, you could cancel everything else except for the AFC North and West and just have those 8 teams play the season and it would still be primetime television.
Oh yeah, it would so entertaining.
Yeah. All right, I think that's the end of our first half of the segment.
Yeah, that was a great AFC West. That was the one I wanted to start with just because it was going to be such a fun topic.
Yeah.
With how good that these teams got.
Yeah.
And I think, granted, the offseason grades might not have reflected that, but we all know that they did get better. It's just how good did they get and our skepticisms of what they did. Mainly my skepticisms because you were a fan of all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not all of them, but come right back. Stay tuned, I should say, as we dive in up next, the NFC West. All right, the NFC West. Jarrett.
I think it's about time to just jump right in.
I've already say lead us into the discussion, into battle, I guess, is a way to put it. Let's go.
This is the knockoff first take. All right. We're starting with the Seattle Seahawks, mainly because they're the dumpster fire of this division. For Seahawks. All right. So, obviously, lost Russell Wilson, brought in Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, Drew Lock, Austin Blythe. I'm pretty sure that's how you say his name.
Mm-hmm.
Not entirely positive, but we're going to rock with it. And their draft, Charles Cross, Boye Mafe, Kenneth Walker, Abraham Lucas. So I loved the draft that they had. Really loved the draft. Not really sure about the Kenneth Walker pick. We know how they do it picking running backs early. Rashad Penny. God, he's terrible.
They just re-signed him. That's another mark to talk about that.
Yeah, but it's Rashad Penny. He is a bottom he's not a terrible running back. He's just bottom 15 of the guys that you want on your team. My personal opinion.
At this point, he's just a good veteran presence on a team that's going to be awful.
Yeah, pretty much. So I think my offseason grade is going to be a B-. I, again, love the talent they brought in. Charles Cross was a very good offensive tackle.
Mm-hmm. That was going to be what I was going to talk about. Keep going. But
I mean,
pointing it out.
You have to be okay with them finally getting offensive line help, even though they get it after Russell Wilson leaves, which makes no sense. But they brought in a little bit of O-line help. They kind of shored up a little position depth. I don't know again, this is the draft. You don't know how great these guys are going to be. You can take your guess, and there's 50-50. They could be incredible. They could be terrible. They could be just good players.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like their draft. Kobe Bryant in the 4th round. Really like him too. He was very, very good opposite of Sauce Gardner.
Mm-hmm.
But you just got to think what is their future looking like right now? Because are they going for Bryce Young or someone else next year at quarterback? Is that their plan? Are they going to give Drew Lock his chance? Are they going to go with Geno?
Right.
Depending on how bad they want to suck is how well this offseason is going to go for them. Because if they suck good, so if they suck well enough to get the first pick, you love it. It's a great offseason because they need a lot, truthfully. This is not the Legion of Boom team anymore. This is a very bad football team with an old coach in Pete Carroll who doesn't have much time left in him anymore. Let's just
Yeah.
be truthful about it. Their bright spots are DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and well, I don't really know who else anymore because they got rid of all the rest of their notable players.
Yeah. No, I think everything you said was right. I'm going to start with this because you brought it up most recently. I think it's time to move on for Pete Carroll. I know they're going to keep him because he's been one of the best coaches they've ever had, and they'll keep him until he retires, for loyalty reasons, as they should. But is that the guy with very few years left? You really want him to retire in the middle of a rebuild? Have to
Yeah.
change your entire leadership in the middle of one of the most mucky seasons that they've ever had. So I don't know, but if I was grading their draft, they'd be a B plus, right? Like maybe an A, fringe A minus.
My draft grade for them would be a B minus or an A minus.
Yeah, I was about
Sorry.
to say like B plus. So we're about the same place, right? Like
Yeah.
if you look at their future, if they have a few more drafts like this last year's, they are in great shape. Because like Charles Cross from Mississippi State's amazing. I think that I liked the Kenneth Walker pick. I know what you say about the Seahawks and picks, as you brought up Penny. I liked Kenneth Walker in college. I like him in a Seahawks jersey, especially if he's going to be year one running back one. I think you cannot pass up on Boy Mafe from Minnesota, a linebacker. They really upped their linebacker core with youth, which I liked. But another pick I think that will really help them, Abraham Lucas out of Washington State, the offensive tackle. I
Mm-hmm.
love that along with Cross. I think that those are two great linebackers. Like, here's the thing: a rebuilding team. What are the things that you really need to address if you don't have it? Lines or some sort of defensive core, right? Whether that be your
Mm-hmm.
secondary or linebacker. They up their offensive line and they up their linebacker core. Both of those things in the future, when you have, like, say, a few good drafts, a few good off seasons, and you have young players who are entering their primes in a few positions like that, all of a sudden you can build around that. Like, you can have a lackluster secondary if you have a really good linebacker core and a good defensive line, or you can have a lackluster quarterback if you've got a great offensive line and a good running back. So I feel like they've put themselves in a position to really, really help themselves in the future. But judging their offseason for this upcoming year, looking in the short near future, they didn't sign anybody of note. They re-signed players that are meh, as in Geno Smith and Rashad Penny. Um, None of their additions, like I was just saying, really pop off the page. They're just kind of fillers
Mm-hmm.
around old talent or talent that's probably going to get traded, because you've heard all the rumors about DK Metcalf getting dealt.
Oh yeah.
And they have an old coach, as we're going to round back to. So yeah, I think they have a C minus. I like Noah Fant. Um, I don't like him as much as you do, but just because of who he's got throwing to him, whether it be Geno or whether it be Drew Lock, if they can get next year, say they get a Bryce Young, they get a no, not Caleb Williams. Who else is available in this upcoming draft at quarterback?
Uh, the Oklahoma or not Oklahoma, Ohio State quarterback. What is his name?
You say Ohio State quarterback, and I literally blanked on everything football. So
Yeah,
I'm going to revert back to what I was saying. You look for a quarterback maybe next year. Maybe you try to make a deal for another star quarterback, which I don't think they will. They'll probably take the long haul in the rebuild process. If it were me, I would probably look into replacing Pete Carroll right now. or maybe after this upcoming season, just let him take the L's and then say, "Hey, we're moving on," because like it wouldn't hurt that bad if you left right now.
No, they're not going to fire him. He would have to resign, and I don't think that he
They're not gonna
would because nobody is going to hire him
right. I
again.
mean, he's just
Like
gonna
if he wants to stay in football, it has to be with the Seahawks, and I think he wants to stay in football for 2 3 more years.
yeah, he's gonna
And it's just
squeeze that money,
yeah,
and rightfully so. I mean,
yeah, can't blame him.
he's still a great coach. It's just
Yeah,
it's gonna suck in 2 or 3 years when they've had either a few good draft classes or in a few good for off seasons, and they're really close to being good again, and then all of a sudden they got to change head coaches, or they've had a few mediocre draft classes and not very good off season, and they're mediocre, and then they got to do another small rebuild because they brought in new leaders.
they're in a very interesting spot because they put themselves in probably one of the hardest spots to get out of.
Right. They just got
Outside of the Saints and their money issues, who is really in a tighter spot than Seattle right now?
oh, like I think exactly what you just said. It's really, really hard to find somebody at coach, especially when you don't have anything locked down that will lead you out of the situation that they've put themselves in. They just got to pray that Drew Lock becomes the second coming of Jesus, and that some of their draft picks from this and next year just turn out to be like godly.
Pretty much. I mean, that's really where they're at. And that Ohio State quarterback CJ Stroud, by the way.
CJ Stroud, that's it. I like CJ Stroud. Do you really think he's going to be the guy to save Seattle?
No, but I think we all know that Ohio State is going to do well next year.
Well, yeah.
His stats are going to look incredible because all Ohio State quarterback stats look incredible.
Yeah.
And he will probably go top 5.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, that's just the way it is at this point. We all know it. And he
Pick
can
our
be
boy Will Levis.
He can be incredible. Will Levis is getting top 10 hype,
I
which
know.
I'm here for.
Yeah. And on that note, do you think it's time to move on to Arizona?
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right, hit me with your Arizona.
All right, Arizona. D.
Oh, wow. Whoa.
Who'd they bring in?
I mean, Hollywood Brown.
Hollywood Brown was mediocre at best.
I feel you.
He's fast. I would still probably rather have Christian Kirk than him, not for the money that Jacksonville is paying him, but I would still rather have Christian Kirk. I mean, if your best offseason piece is Hollywood Brown and you lost Christian Kirk, Chandler Jones, Jordan Hicks, I mean, what are you really doing? They drafted Trey McBride in the second round, who was again a tight end in a tight end class that was not good. So the Kyler Murray situation is also really kind of making me nervous about it too, because you don't know what he's going to do. Is he going to play? Is he not? What did they get better at? They're without DeAndre Hopkins for 6 games, which, is a little iffy, which he probably would have been out because he gets hurt more than sliced bread.
Mm-hmm.
But I just see them finishing 3rd in the division. I can't look past it. They didn't do anything to really get that much better unless Hollywood Brown turns into the receiver he was at Oklahoma. They did nothing.
Yeah, and I mean, I do think Hollywood Brown has a lot better of a situation. I mean, he's got the quarterback that threw to him. He's got a coach that is not afraid to air it out. I do think that's what really hurt Hollywood was that he was in a system in Baltimore that was predicated on the legs of the quarterback. Which, I mean, that's fine. They're successful in their own right, but it doesn't make Hollywood Brown a better receiver. Especially now, you put him in a system with, I know A.J. Green's old, but imagine if he stays healthy, he's still reliable. He's still somewhat of a weapon that if he and Kyler can get on the same page, he's still a tough player, right? DeAndre Hopkins, who's in the conversation if he's healthy as one of the top receivers. As I already said with Hollywood, and you add Zach Ertz, they're in a situation where they have enough weapons that if you double one of those guys, there's going to be another weapon that's ready to make a deep play and hurt you on any given drive. So I think offensively, their line is still holding up fine. Kyler, if he plays and if off-season issues don't kind of take the precedent over what's going on the field this year, offensively, they're still going to be really tough. I know defensively they're not as good. So like I'm kind of they're obviously not they didn't do as well as the Chiefs did, but I have them in that same boat to where they kind of stayed even keel. They got like they have the potential to be even better, but I don't think they regardless they didn't have as good an offseason as the Chiefs. So I'm giving them a C minus. I think a D is pretty strong. But like obviously C minus isn't that far off, so like I can agree and I can like, understand everything you're saying. But I think that they did enough to where they can stay relevant if everybody's on the same page and if they can play to their potential and stay healthy.
Yeah, that they're not going to be a bad team, but I look at what Hollywood Brown has done. He's been a below average receiver. Even when they did throw him the ball, he was dropping it like crazy. You would throw him a go route and he'd drop it, which was really the one thing you drafted the guy for. He's supposed to take the top off the defense because he has that kind of speed.
Right.
And I would rather have the route running of Christian Kirk and the hands of Christian Kirk over Hollywood Brown. And they lost their what I would consider him their best defensive player because I value edges super high in Chandler Jones, and they didn't replace him.
No, that's fair. I mean,
It's just
definitely.
it's just I don't see they didn't get better. They got very worse. And the offseason news that they've had with it reminds me of the Steelers a few years ago. Offseason noise is never a good thing because all it does is bring drama to a locker room, and drama to a locker room never ends well. It doesn't.
Hmm.
So I have no high hopes for them. They're still going to be a good team. Don't get me wrong. They have Kyler Murray, who is a very good quarterback. They have DeAndre Hopkins, who is one of those guys when he's healthy and playing. Zach Ertz is not what he used to be. He's lost a step. The offensive line is not very good. The defensive line is not very good outside of JJ Watt. What they don't really have great linebackers. I mean, Byron Murphy is a decent cornerback, and Buda Baker is incredibly talented. But I mean, I just named what 6 guys total.
No, you're right. No, I
I mean,
completely understand.
you're not winning that division with that.
No, you're right. I'm not saying they're going to win the division. I'm just saying they have a chance to be a good team at the very least, or at the very most, I should say.
I just see them as like a 500 team at best.
Yeah. This year, I think this is a make or break year for Cliff Kingsbury.
Mm-hmm.
His name, I don't know why it just like it stuck on my tongue and I couldn't get it out there for a second. I
Yeah.
really, really think if Kingsbury has a bad year this year, it doesn't matter that they are worse than last year. It doesn't matter that the NFC West is very top heavy. He might be out after this. So
Yeah, and I mean, there was already rumblings of it after the postseason game that they lost,
yeah,
and at that time, he hadn't done anything that bad.
no. And so this is all I'm saying. With old Cliff being backed into a corner, they still have some talent and they're desperate. I've seen a lot worse teams do some pretty big things off desperation alone.
Oh, you're not wrong. And then Kyler is going to be playing for that contract,
So
so
yeah,
he's going to ball out. It's just what does he really have to ball out with?
no, that's completely right. We'll definitely have to see. But yeah,
It
this is a make or break year for them. I really do believe so.
it is. Are you ready for the next team, good sir?
Let's do it.
The San Francisco 49ers. And
Oh boy,
I can run you through their offseason real quick.
hit me through it.
So their most important offseason signing is Ray McLeod.
Yeah.
They lost really not very many people of importance. They lost starters, but they're not the best starters. They drafted Drake Jackson in the second round, who was a pretty decent edge for a second round pick. I'm not going to lie on that. Uh, Tyrion Davis Price, who's a running back from LSU. Danny Gray, a wide receiver from SMU. Spencer Buford, a guard from Texas San Antonio. So,
Yeah.
with all of that in mind, plus the Debo news of him most likely getting traded before the season even starts. Keeping Jimmy Garoppolo, the uncertainty around Trey Lance. Are they going to be a good team? Yes. Do I think that they had a good offseason? Not even in the slightest. I would probably give them in like a D plus.
Yeah.
And
I
the D plus is just because I like Drake Jackson. That's genuine.
Yeah, I think we're finally hitting our stride in terms of agreeances. I would give them a D just because of everything I said was wrong with the Chiefs is wrong with this team. All they did was lose guys that started. They kind of replaced them. They kind of didn't. Draft class, even things that you can look forward for the future, just kind of meh. And their best receiver is, like as you said, on his way out. They still have talent. They still got a great coach in Kyle Shanahan. There's nothing that they could do at this point to improve their season unless they make the monumental trade, which I don't see happening. So I think a D plus is probably generous. They've just had I don't want to call it atrocious, but it has not been pretty.
No, it is not a good offseason. Not like if someone said that it was a good off. I mean, when your biggest offseason signing is Ray McLeod, there's something wrong
Yeah,
because believe me, I have seen Ray McLeod at his best, and his best sucks. It's terrible.
yeah,
It is god awful. How that man is an NFL receiver, I don't understand.
yeah. They activated and on January 21st, so well before the season ended, they activated Mohamed Sanu, which is a name I hadn't seen in forever.
Yeah.
Uh, so that'll be interesting to see if guys like him can somehow make a difference. They signed Troy. Oh, their most recent in May, actually, a little over a week ago. They signed Troy Bumangali. Well, I don't even know who that is.
I know the name. I
Troy
don't think they're
Fumangali.
very good. I don't think they're very good.
What I'm saying, like they exercised Nick
So
Bosa's fifth-year option for next season. They re-signed Aziz Al-Shir. Um, yeah, no, there's a Kimoko Toure who signed a 1-year deal. The defensive end or defensive lineman. I'm just looking through here. They signed D-back Dante Johnson. Like none of these names I'm reading like jump out.
no, they these are just depth pieces.
Yeah. George Udom and
Depth.
Charvarius Ward, they signed 3-year contracts, but they were already with the squad. Like nothing
Yeah.
here.
They did not really get better. They're the same exact team, which is fine because that team was very close to getting to the Super Bowl.
Oh, very good team, yeah.
But the issue is Debo's gone, whether they like it or not. Debo is gone.
Yeah.
The Trey Lance pick, I mean, there are a lot of people questioning it now, which I didn't see last year. A lot of people like the pick. And when they go out and they say we kind of question it now, and the fact that he's not, or they haven't traded Jimmy Garoppolo, I think that speaks more to it than anything because if you draft this guy third overall, you expect him to at least be starting by year two. And if he's not, there's something wrong.
Is
So
is the Garoppolo not being traded? Is that more of the man? There wasn't enough. How do I put this? You know when you're at a car dealership and everyone's around the new car,
mhm,
and the older car just kind of gets love from very few people, but no one really buys it.
yeah,
I know there's a term for that, but isn't that more of the case? This man just
yeah,
wasn't getting
I,
enough attention in the
I
trade
get it.
thought.
His value isn't that high,
That's a good way to
but
put it.
if Trey Lance is your guy, you don't care about the value as much because you know he's not that guy anymore.
Oh no, I completely
I mean,
agree.
he's made it very abundantly clear that he is a middle of the road quarterback, which is fine. You can win with a middle of the road quarterback. A lot of teams have done it, but it's really why is he still on that team if you're not having doubts about Trey Lance?
Yeah, especially I mean like, and the NFL is a lot different from other leagues that I usually see because if you can't deal a guy, you don't keep him and hold out and wait for the right deal. Most of the time, they just get released. So the fact that he's not even been released yet, I mean, I think that adds credence to what you're saying. Like they're kind of keeping him as like almost like a plan B. Like okay, we're obviously going to go with this guy, but if he doesn't work out because we're having doubts now, we've still got Jimmy G.
Yeah. What I think we're both in agreement that it was just not a good offseason for them.
Oh yeah.
And what they get back for Debo is going to be crucial into how this team's future goes. Because they do have a really good defense. I like the defensive pieces that they have. I like the offensive line. It's very good. Trent Williams, best left tackle in the NFL. You have to like that. But when you take Debo off of that team, what do they really have offensively?
Yeah.
They've got a coach who can scheme up running better than anyone in the NFL. But if you can't throw the ball past 15 yards, you're not going to win.
Yeah, they also lost a lot of depth in the running back core too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that you can't overlook because they lost Raheem. Is it Mostert? I can never pronounce his last name correctly. I'm sorry.
Mostert.
Mostert. Yeah, they lose him, and I know he was in his early 30s, so like it's probably more of a we don't want to pay what he wants. But you let a guy that can catch out of the backfield, added a veteran presence, and really solidify that running back core. You let him walk. Those are little signings like that really make a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to say anything about them because you really don't know what they're fielding next year yet.
Yeah.
It is such a question mark because if they go with Garoppolo, you know what they're going with. If they trade Debo, what the return depends on how good they do. Because at this point, what are you getting for a receiver slash running back who, again, if they're playing him at running back, he doesn't really have much of a shelf life because he's taking more hits.
Yeah.
So if they got a good receiver back for him, then yeah, you go for it. But if you're throwing Jimmy G out there and no Debo, that offense is a lot worse, and it is not a good situation that they're in, especially still paying Garoppolo.
Completely agree.
All right, let's move on to the Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams.
Here we go. Okay, what didn't they do? They won the Super Bowl and then they acted as if they didn't win anything and continued their offseason signings.
They really, I mean, I don't. They didn't have any draft picks because they're the Rams. They trade every draft pick they have. They lost Von Miller, which he was a big part of the Super Bowl win, but I mean he wasn't the crucial part that won it for him. They lost Robert Woods, who was hurt quite often. They lost Austin Corbett, what I think that's how you say his name, who was a starting guard for him. They didn't really draft anybody that's notable. They're pretty much going out there with the same team and hoping.
Except with Allen Robinson across from Cooper Cup.
Yeah, but what all does Allen Robinson have left in the tank?
Listen, bro, I'm saying if they can make it work with what they had, I mean, Tyler Higbee will be healthy. Allen Robertson enters the fray. Cooper Cup's still going to be Cooper Cup. That line is still that line, even with the retirement of Whitworth. Matt Stafford really isn't going to be going anywhere just yet. At defense, I mean, yeah, I don't think they'll be as good with the loss of Von Miller. By the way, Von Miller got 6 years in Buffalo.
I'm not much of a fan of that deal, truthfully.
6 years. We'll obviously talk a lot more about that when we get
Yeah,
to that side, the AFC East. But man,
I don't this offseason for this NFC West is not even very comparable to what we just did in the AFC West. And this is one of the best divisions in football.
yeah, I think it shows how
But
much talent was already here.
yeah, which it does. And the Rams are still going to be a very good team.
Yeah,
They're gonna rely on Cooper Cup a lot. They're gonna rely on Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, who are all top three at their position. You can argue with a wall. But again, what they didn't really do anything to get better. Odell's
right.
not coming back. Robert Woods is gone. Von Miller's gone. They don't really have that much money. So what in terms of how they are as a team, you're going with an A. But off-season grade, I think you give him C plus, B minus, maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna give them the Chiefs mantra, which was just a C. Like they kind of stayed even keel, exactly where they're at. I know I keep using that Chiefs as an example, but that's exactly what these NFC teams did. They all stayed kind of where they were, which is
Mm-hmm.
fine because they've been good. I
Mm-hmm.
mean they re-sign they where was it? I just saw something about that. There it is. Center Brian Allen. They re-signed Brian Allen. Um, they did sign wide receiver Brandon Powell. Um, so like they have some depth in the receiving core. Their line is kind of getting back those guys that they had. They haven't really replaced Witt yet, but they already had a guy as his backup. I can't think of his name. That played reps,
Oh.
who probably will just get the starting nod. Um, Sean McVay is Sean McVay, bro. Like,
Oh yeah, they're offensively they're going to be elite
yeah.
because he is their coach.
And defensively, they've got guys. They still have guys in positions where all you got to do is get competency around them, and then they're going to be very good.
And you never know; they might just bring Eric Weddle back for another playoff run.
God, no, that man needs to stay home. He got his ring. Just like sip a martini and grow your beard out and just enjoy the beach. I don't know,
Yeah, probably. I mean, he did tear his pec in 3 games, so
dude. Please don't come back. You've had your fun. Don't do it.
from a sad Bengals fan.
Yeah, I Eric Weddle was the bane of my existence for a long freaking time.
Yeah, they did bring in Bobby Wagner.
Yeah, no, that was another really interesting signing. He stayed in the NFC West, and that man is so happy to play the Seahawks twice a year.
Yeah, because they're terrible. He's probably going to get like 15
Oh
tackles and a
my
sack, maybe a
gosh.
pick. I mean, you never know.
No, you don't. And I am so very excited to see them do that. Like that first game, neither game's gonna be close. It's just gonna be fun to see Bobby Wagner. You're about to see the closest thing to Aaron Donald from his own teammate and Bobby
Yeah,
Wagner.
I mean, if they had Bobby Wagner in his prime, they would have 3 of the top 10 defensive players in football.
Old Bobby Wagner is still legit though.
He is. He's still one of the better middle linebackers.
Yeah,
And honestly, middle linebackers aren't really as good as what they used to be.
yeah.
Like this is not again all position football kind of goes where the winning happens. So if you see a team like the Rams go without linebackers and win, or the I I kind of I see a lot of teams going the Eagles route nowadays where they're going with no linebackers, good safeties, decent corners, and a really good pass rush on defense.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of teams are kind of going into that mold where they're trying to build a certain roster just to it's a copycat league. If
Right.
someone does something good, they copycat it.
Right.
And that's exactly what that's why coaching hires are the way they are, because you get these branches from certain coaches that have success and they just continue to hire off of that coach because they had success and they're going to rock with them until they sink or swim.
No, I completely agree.
So I really honestly I kind of question the middle linebacker value in current NFL anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we'll think about it like this too. Middle linebackers are kind of in a weird spot on the field, just from like a standpoint of where they play.
Mm-hmm.
I think teams are placing more value in the lineman that can get the sack and the corner slash safety in the secondary that can get the pick because they're bigger
Oh
plays.
yeah, they're absolutely going for big plays now. You're
Right.
doing a lot better if you get a sack on first down and it's 2nd and 16
Yeah.
than you are if you're giving up 3 yards on a run or
Right.
3 yards on a pass and it's 2nd and 7.
It's just like the NBA and them going with tailoring the rule book to an offensive game because the more points scored, the more views you get.
Mm-hmm.
The more defensive plays you have and the more touchdowns you have, the more views you have.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, I think that everything you're saying in credence, like on one hand, you have a middle linebacker that's gonna most of the time stay back in a kind of a like a I don't even want to call it a spy, more of in coverage. They blitz every now and then. They're more there to stop the run if it breaks past the line. They might get
Mm-hmm.
a sack every now and then. Versus you got either or group like position groups that at any point can get are like the forefront of big plays on that side of the ball.
It's just it is a copycat league through and through, and the Rams are doing it. What we're gonna see is teams trying to copycat the Rams very soon.
Yeah.
But the issue is you're not going to be able to trade for a top 10 quarterback like they did so easily. That is the hard truth of it. They got a top 10 quarterback for not top 10 quarterback value, and they're gonna ride off into the sunset with their Super Bowl with it.
The Lions didn't value Matt Stafford, and I don't understand. Like,
no, because I think at the point when he was with the Lions, a lot of people understood how underrated he was and the throws that he can make, because we saw it every week. It was just the issue was he didn't have a good offensive line. He didn't have good receivers outside of when Megatron was there. Don't fight me. But I mean, the best weapon that they had him in the past 3 years was TJ Hawkinson, and he was hurt for a good portion of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it sucked. It really did. But you give him a weapon like Cooper Kupp, who is one of the top 5 route runners in the NFL and has probably a top 3 hands in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
It was tailor-made for success for Matthew Stafford, especially in Sean McVay's offense.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree. Right. So yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
We've covered we covered 8 teams today.
We have.
Yeah.
That was a good 8 teams.
I really do think that was a great way to start.
Oh, absolutely. Just because those 2 conferences are 2 of the best in football, and they're very intriguing to read about just because of how, especially AFC West, how much has happened.
Yeah.
All right, what I would like to do something though.
All right, let's hear it.
This is how we're going to start ending off some shows. I want you, off the top of your head, tell me a fantasy football sleeper that you have. This could be Dynasty. This could, I mean, you could even tell me a first round pick if it's your opinion. But I want to each of us name a player, and we're going to keep up with them throughout the year and just come back to it and see how they do.
Oh boy. Gosh. So here's the thing. I knew this was coming and I still forgot about it, and I'm still thinking. So my first thought would be almost like a trying to think of I know who I'm thinking of, but I can't think of his name. He's in Pittsburgh. James Washington, right?
He is with the Cowboys.
Cowboys. There we go. No, the reason I said Pittsburgh was because I knew he played in Pittsburgh. I know he went to the Cowboys, but gosh, no, I don't know.
Deontay Johnson.
No, I was gonna say James Robinson, but then I thought of the rest of that Cowboys wide receiver core. Hit me with yours. I need a give me a hiatus for a second.
You want a hiatus?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I'm gonna be a little confident here. I'm gonna give you a couple.
All right, hit me with some.
All right. So receiver, I'm going to say, and you're gonna love this, T. Higgins.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah, that's
because he is phenomenal. He gets so undervalued, and he is incredible. He doesn't have the breakaway speed that everybody else on that team has, but he is going to be their number 2 receiver next year.
A good possession receiver. He's so tall.
Yes, he is very, very good.
I would argue he was our most reliable outside of Jamar Chase. He was our most reliable target.
Yes, he was.
Like when we needed something, it was always T.
It was. I mean, and I'm gonna go with another one, and this is more because I don't value quarterbacks highly in fantasy football, so I always try and draft them later. This is more kind of that, and I think like a kind of sleeper that not many people are going to talk about, Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
Because, and hear me out, they're going to throw the ball a lot. That team has to. They just drafted a really good receiver in Olave. Pretty sure it was Olave, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was I'm fairly
Who?
certain.
Wait. Who? The Saints? Yeah,
Yeah.
they drafted Olave. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm just making sure.
bro. It's
I didn't
late
wa-
and I've
I
been up a long time, so I apologize.
yeah.
I am listening.
I'm not even gonna lie. Him and Garrett Wilson still confuse me to this day.
Eh.
But I really like Olave. I like Garrett Wilson too, which is why I probably didn't know that. I like Olave. Michael Thomas is coming back. The uncertainty around Kamara is what really pushes me forward because you don't really know what's going to happen with that. And I think because of it, they're going to end up throwing the ball a lot. Jameis is going to be healthy. And when he was healthy last year, he wasn't bad.
Right.
He wasn't throwing picks like he
Oh,
had
what was
been.
it? 10 touchdowns to 4 interceptions in like 3
Yeah.
games.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah,
For Jameis, that is very good.
that's phenomenal.
And so I think quarterback sleeper, Jameis Winston, and wide receiver sleeper, T. Higgins.
All right. So now I've got mine, and it's not that this guy isn't going to be valued in fantasy, but I feel like his value will shoot him into the Mark Andrews type of level. Okay. And
Mm.
and actually, I'm gonna give you two, but they're both tight ends, and
Ooh,
so I'm gonna hit you with the first tight end, and you're gonna be like, well, duh, and it's gonna be Kyle Pitts. I know that
okay.
that team, well, I know that that team, I know that that team has like a lot of question marks, and I know that he will be someone that people want anyway, especially in dynasty leagues. But I truly feel like in any PPR league, you get a young quarterback with a really, really rough receiving core, and because I think Desmond Ritter starts day one. I don't think Mariota will have much of a shot.
See, but even if they do start Mariota,
Yeah,
when Mariota was starting in Tennessee, one of his favorite targets was the tight end,
that's
and
what I'm saying.
that I mean he's going to throw to the tight end. Britter probably will too. So that is a great pick. Truthfully, I don't know. It is it. He will be incredible. It's just how late will he be going to be considered the sleeper?
Yeah,
Which even if he goes second round, he could be valued as first round talent. That's just the way that fantasy football works nowadays.
yeah. And my other one, if he can get healthy, and it's for much of the same reason, but this isn't the same quarterback situation, is Robert Tunyon.
Okay, I
I
like that.
really think if Robert Tunyon gets healthy, you take away the number one option for Aaron Rodgers and you add in Sammy Watkins and Alan Lazard. Aaron Jones is still going to be there, but you you get two guys that really kind of are meh receivers, and you
Hmm.
throw a really good tight end and Robert Tunyon in the mix. Aaron Rodgers is going to do nothing but target Tunyon, and he's a guy that's going to get a lot of targets and a lot of attention. And for PPR leagues especially, that man is going to rack up the points. So yeah,
I agree. I especially think he's going to get a lot more red zone targets because that's where Devontae Adams shines so
yeah.
well. He is going to get those at least some of those red zone targets that Devontae Adams is getting. And if he is healthy, he is going to be a very good fantasy football tight end.
Yeah, see, I kind of know what I'm talking about when I can
Sometimes.
actually think properly. Yeah. So yeah, those are my two. And I think those two will both do very well.
Agreed. All right. Any final closing statements, sir?
Um, you're welcome.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm just kidding.
Thank you.
I'm just kidding. Um, this has been fun. I listen. This is the start of something great. We say that
Mhm,
we say that on Beyond the Screen all the time. This is the start of something great, and we
mhm.
don't say it without meaning it. And on this show, it's the exact same way. This is the start of I feel like we're going to grow a very fun fan base who we're probably going to argue with more than we get along with. But that's okay.
That's sports, man.
Let's go. Yeah, no, I'm very excited.
I am too. And this is the first podcast of the sports division that we will have coming up very soon. What
Barely.
fairly soon, few months at the late at probably the latest, right?
Yeah.
Depending on how it goes. But this is the start of the sports department that we have on the Greater Than Network. And I'm so excited that it's me and you doing this because we've talked about it for so long and it's finally coming through for us.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming.
It has.
I love the hype up for the sports department here on the Greater Than Network. We will be the other department is like entertainment and pop culture, which is going to be the majority of the shows as we look for different hosts to host different sports for the sports department. So, a lot of great things are on the horizon. Jarrett Smith here is going to be a big part of that. So yeah, Jarrett,
Yeah.
close this out, my friend.
All right. Yes, this has been mostly Audibles, hosted by myself, Jarrett Smith, and Ryan Gum, who I may occasionally call bitch, but
Wow.
it's brotherly love.
Yeah.
All right. I think it's good.
All right, that's all. I will.
All right.
We will see you guys in the next one. See you
Yeah.
guys.
See ya.